Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 281. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, which is still going for the present, isn't it, David?
Me?
And we also...
I'm now lost.
We also answer questions asked on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. With us tonight, we have David Rozam. David is an internet marketer based in the southern side of England, down near Brighton. Not that far from Brighton, are you?
No, about half an hour from Brighton.
Right.
But I'm in Littlehampton, which should be more famous than Brighton.
Only because you live there.
Yes, yeah.
And you can find David at writingforseo.org. He keeps threatening to open up davidrozam.co, but hasn't done it yet.
.com, not
.com, sorry.
Come on.
Yeah,
I have one of those.
Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google AdSense community. You can find Masa at wasaweb.net. Tim Capper you can find at onlineownership.com, where he's CEO. He is also a top contributor on the Google My Business community. All right, we've got 34 questions on our run list tonight, and so let's get cracking. The first one is it's titled "Organic Dropped Around About 40% compared to last year." Marcus Chris, I think that'll be Chris Marcus, said that my client has a large e-shop with underwear, swimsuits, etc. He spends tons of money on PPC. In quarter one of 2018 versus quarter one of 2017, he had more than 100% increase on PPC traffic and good revenue. And in the same quarter, his organic traffic dropped around 40% compared to last year. Around December 2017, he redesigned the whole site. Can this be a reason? Yes, I'm sure it can. Who's going to tell us about it?
I'll have a go if you like. There's all sorts of things that could happen if you redesigned the whole site. Excuse me. It depends. Depends what you mean redesigned. If it's just a few tweaks to a theme, if it's a site with themes to make it look different, then the chances of it being a problem are fairly slim. But redesigning the whole site, you say, that sounds as if it might have gone onto a new platform. Therefore, it may have got different URLs. Were 301 redirects put in place to help Google and visitors? What else? It can go on and on. Has he got the same copy on it? Has he changed the copy? How is the site for mobile? Have you gone on to mobile first indexing yet? How fast is the site? There's things that are to do with could be to do with redesign the whole site. If indeed redesign the whole site means doing something fundamental to it. If he did something fundamental to it, he could have well mess things up. I saw a site that the client said to his developer, we want to go on to HTTPS. So sure enough, the developer went out and changed the put an SSL certificate on the server, but didn't do anything else. And lo and behold, the organic traffic dropped. So you know, there are all sorts of things that could go wrong with redesigning the whole site. I don't know if anyone else can think of anything sensible to add. But yes, you know, to answer the question, yes, it could be a reason, but it depends what's been done.
Now, isn't there a possibility that because the PPC click-through rate has gone up, that people who would have clicked the organic results are now clicking on the ads?
I suppose so.
So, because, you know, you have 100% increase in the PPC. So, I don't know the base figure. So, 100%.
Well, has he spent 100% more on PPC?
Yeah. but yeah, the point is that, you know, has the total number of visitors increased? And if so, it might be just that the PPC has been so successful, people clicking through the ads without going through the organic results. Could that explain it?
Yeah, it certainly could, Masataki.
There's another thing that you keep looking at is, I mean, it seems to be going for quite a while, this site. What's your branded traffic like? And on the same flip side, in terms of the PPC, are you bidding on branded? You know, have a look at that also, because people might just be actually searching your brand by name, the site by name, but then just can't be asked to take one little scroll down to the actual site and hit your freaking ad. You know, so yeah, also look at those.
Yeah, a good thing. If he does have a lot of branded traffic, make that a separate AdWords campaign. I've found with a couple of the sites that I'm covering that the branded keyword is so cheap it's just not even a consideration. Yeah. Hello, Richard Hearn.
Hello.
How are you, mate? You looking well? You are, let me guess, in Ireland.
Yeah, I'm here just for a couple of weeks. I'm going back next week, but yeah, here for a little while, little visit. Did this, just curious, this question, just looking through the points there, did they, two questions I would ask them is, did the URLs change when they redesigned the site? And I had another question, I've forgotten what it was.
That's a very good point.
You know, I always think when you see something like this, and whenever someone says something happened like this, and they say, and P.S. they redesigned their site, the first thing I always think is, right, well, if they redesigned their site, you know, that's probably a brand new site, brand new URLs, probably everything changed, maybe no redirects. Like, actually, I remember the second part of my question was going to be, did they track the rankings before and after they redesigned the site? Like, did his site still rank organically as well as it did prior to the site redesign or not? Because that's the first place I'd always look. Whenever I hear like, oh, our traffic went down by 40%, which is like nearly half, you think, well, what did they change?
That's right. So many people don't realise that if they don't put in the redirects, the pages will still be in Google's, the old pages will still be in Google's index for a while, but they'll be 404.
And they'll be getting a fast bounce back to the SERP also. If people click on from the SERP, they'll get the fast bounce back, and Google is surely monitoring that. And if they see that and then see the user clicking on some other site subsequently, well, they're gonna pull that URL from their SERPs. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered this for Chris Marcus. Would everybody agree, or we move on to the next? We've got 34 questions tonight, Richard. I hope we can get through them before I pass on. Okay. Oh, that's okay, Richard. All right. If you've got a website of wallpapers, then what would you do for its off-page SEO? Question from Danny Ladd.
I'd add as much meta information related to each wallpaper as you can possibly come up with that is useful. And when I say metadata, I don't mean metadata as in like meta description. I mean actual content on the page that refers to the images.
Yep. Anybody else? I see also people like Glenn Cooper, Ash Nellower, and Francois Pierre Marcel contributed on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group, and we thank those guys for the effort that they put in through the week. All right, let me tweet this and we'll move on. This one, please share some of your proven methods to increase website traffic. If you're writing blogs, on which site do you post them? Medium, e-zine, article. I don't know what he means by that. Do you still comment on do you still comment on blog posts? No. How about Reddit and Quora? Can they bring visitors on the site? Everyone in the industry says content is the key, but still I cannot find the right place to start. Help anyone.
So the right place to start is on your own site, your own property. Forget like, where am I going to post these? The thing is, your customers come to your site. They do a certain amount of searching. They're either searching for a specific item, product, or they're searching for a query around something, right? How do I trim a pink fluffy elephant's toenails? Okay. Now, if you don't have, and you sell pink fluffy elephants, right? But you don't have that information on how to trim their toenails, they're going to go somewhere else that answers their query, right? And if you publish it on another site, then they're going to read it on another site, for example, and ultimately you've answered their question, and because you're on another site, they may never realize that you actually sell a variety of pink fluffy elephants on your own site. So here's the point. The point about content, okay, is it doesn't have to be written in that's always written. It can be informational guides on your site, because let's say you only do pink fluffy elephants and you want to have a total guide about keeping pink fluffy elephants, how big they grow, what they eat, blah, blah, blah. Or you could have video content on the product pages. So it could be your pink fluffy elephant toenail clipper, right, on the page. And you've got a description on your product, but then content can also be video content. You can then also provide a video onto that page showing exactly how to use the clipper. You know, you could be talking about the length of it, etc. You know, content doesn't just have to be written. Content is what satisfies the user's intent when they come to your site. Okay. You can also use content to attract the user and satisfy their query, and at the same time, you're driving them towards your product if they, you know, if they require it. So don't think about where can I post this stuff. Think about, you know, obviously on your site. Firstly, it's on your site. Next, it's how, you know, you need to start looking at your site and go, what else do I need on my site that is going to answer users' queries around my products or services, right? So if you're an e-com site, I don't know what you do, but my quickest rule of thumb that I try and get this concept across to clients that I work with is if someone walks into your shop, cannot say anything to them except read your product description, will you make that sale? And if the answer is no, well, then you know you've got a problem and that you need to revisit that content. Okay. But then also think about how users are going to come to your site in terms of pink fluffy elephants. There could be a million queries. Where do I get one? How do I trim the toenails? How do I bath it? And, you know, you can use things to give yourself a start in that on what to kind of break down the topical relevancies of these things. You can use, there's a load of tools, but a quick, easy, free one you can try is the public. Go and put in sort of your query or your main product, so pink fluffy elephant, and it will give you back what it can find based upon questions, answers, synonyms, things like this. And therefore, that gives you an idea. But if you are e-commerce, the greatest and biggest way, if you're a business, one of the fastest ways to know what people are looking for is to actually start creating a little spreadsheet. Every time the phone goes, the person asks you a question, boom, you've already got your answer right there. So that becomes your content. Have I answered that on my site? I clearly haven't, because they couldn't find it and they're phoning me to ask about it. So you've got to start, you know, you've got to really start thinking about your site, your product, and satisfying your user's intent. If you can satisfy your user's intent, which is customer, right? So you should know about them. That is how you're going to sell and convert.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let's charge on to the next. Would you consider blog commenting to be a form of SEO? I see a lot of shaking heads.
So no, I wouldn't call it SEO. But then on the flip side, you know, if it's just crappy blog comment, I mean, if let's say it's obviously a really good site, blah blah blah, you know, well read, etc. You could use it as a form of brand building for yourself. You can't drop a link in there; it probably wouldn't even get it through whatever they're using. But the point here is, you could use it for brand building, reputation building. You could be seen as a problem solver, but that's more towards forums, not really commenting. But I wouldn't call it a form of SEO. You can, more towards forums where you've got more lengthy stuff where you're solving problems for people, and people see you more as an authority, and ultimately maybe coming through to you for advice turns into a sale. But I would consider blog commenting, and pretty much every blog I have, I've even disabled comments. It's a pain in the frickin' ass. So, nah, I wouldn't say so. But it has got some value in the sense of where you are and what you're saying.
Yep. All right, let's, unless there's somebody else with a comment, let's move on to the next. Okay. Oh, I forgot to tweet that, I think. Let me get rid of it. Right, this one from Faith Dugan is keeping the URL short better for the user experience. She said, hi, I made a website 4 months ago and my URLs are long, same length as the H1. Now I keep reading that a shorter URL is better for the user experience, or in general, it is better. Can I change my URL or does it hurt my SEO if I do that? I have not built any backlinks so far.
Well, I wouldn't sweat about long URLs. I would just leave everything as it is. If you do change them, then you're going to have to put some 301 redirects in. You'll possibly lose a little bit from redirecting, and if there is anything to be gained from shorter URLs, you'd only get a little bit anyway. So I wouldn't bother. I'd just leave everything as it is and not confuse Google.
Yeah, we've got a site that has got some horrible URLs and parameters and tacked on the end. It's just really horrible. It's so the site's so large and so messed up that, and it's going so well. It sells heaps of stuff. It's leading its niche, so it's just there. It's not going to change. The URL really doesn't matter anymore. You can have the keyword in the domain name. That's not so important anymore. And certainly the keyword in the URL is not really useful to you. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
It does. Just one final point. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, eh?
It's true in 99% of activities, I feel.
Okay, thank you, David. Josu Sanchez Analda asks the question, is it okay if all of the pages in your website contain a link pointing to the main page? Yeah, what about the logo? I won't read all that out, but well, you guys would agree it's obvious that all of the pages contain links pointing to the main page.
Yeah, I think so. There would be a home page. There would be, according to local regulations and such, you might have to have a link to a privacy policy or declaration of your business location, etc., etc. That would be site-wide. So
your navigation, some places have home, about, blog. Yeah, I mean, and those are also going to be site-wide.
I think, isn't he asking though about having links within his body content? I think that's what he's talking about. And then he's talking about, should all the anchors be the same, or should some anchors be different, and when does it look spammy? And if he has to ask, does it look spammy, then he has to be a little bit more careful. And he can, I think it really depends. I think there could be cases where you could trip things up if you start using very aggressive internal anchor text in your body copy. Yeah, I suspect they may have ways to sort of determine that are pretty advanced.
I love this group. All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
So if we are talking about kind of internal or paid, I would caution you to start thinking about, have you got categories in your site? And it doesn't make sense for you've got categories and then you've got 10 products in that, or whatever the case may be, or it could be service listed on a service page, different kinds of services. It doesn't make actual sense in terms of the hierarchy of the site, because let's say we're on the water boiler servicing page, right? And you've got different kinds of services. It wouldn't make sense to link it back, because the point here being is somebody's essentially, you want that water boiler servicing page to appear for water boilers. You don't want your homepage to appear for water boilers, because someone's then going to land on your site, then have to go through it to find the water boiler section. It's not clear to them and quickly and easy to find it. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose a user. You want your water boiler services page to appear when someone searches, "I need emergency boiler service. How much does a water boiler service cost me? Who can service my water boiler?" Yeah. So that's what you want to appear. You want your water boiler service page to appear for those queries, not your homepage. So if anything, and you are going to link to something within your categories, I would be linking it back to my category.
I'm going to guess, though, that isn't what this guy is asking about, to be honest. I'd say this guy has got something like a blog, or he's into something like affiliate stuff or something along that, rather than business type site, I guess. So, yeah. I mean, there's probably cases where you wouldn't want to link to your homepage like that, but for what this guy is probably trying to attempt to do, it's a little bit different. I think he probably wants to get his homepage to rank, and that's why he's trying to put a link to the homepage across the site, and he's asking about putting it in the body text, and then he wants to vary the anchor text, because obviously he probably wants the homepage to rank for multiple different keywords. I don't know. I mean, the devil is always in the detail with things like this, so very difficult to say. But if this guy is concerned that something might look spammy, it probably does look spammy, and he probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. All right, let's move on to the next. Ollie Kokkonen asked the question. He said, it's titled, "When we change the theme, does it affect our current rankings?" Ollie says, "Hey guys, my company has a corporate blog on a subdomain. We're using WordPress as a CMS. Now, the current theme is old and terrible, and we've decided to get rid of it and find a new ready, maybe means responsive WordPress theme. When we change the theme, will it affect our current rankings? If it does, how badly? Any other tips that you could share about this topic? Thank you for the help."
That's an interesting one. You would immediately think they're both WordPress sites, so the internal architecture will probably be quite similar. And at the same time, if the theme changes, depending on how the theme interlinks within itself, it could change quite significantly the internal link graph within the site. And the one thing that comes to my mind to try, if they're very, very worried, you probably shouldn't be too worried, but if you are worried about this, if you crawl the old site, the current site, and then set it up in a testing staging environment on the new site, and crawl that and see what the link graphs look like. And if they're fairly similar, it's probably going to be pretty much identical. The only other thing is to be careful if content is suddenly hidden, like with things like show hide or stuff like that, that might be in the new theme. One other thing, sorry, I said the only other thing, but there's one other thing. Things like category pages, the number of posts per category page that it shows, whether it shows excerpts or snippets, or how it shows on the category pages can make a difference as well.
Thank you, Richard. And the one thing I thought of, some themes are one-page sites. So that would make a huge difference. The URLs would all disappear.
Mm.
Anybody else? Oh God, I'm an idiot. Okay, Tina Willis. Tim will probably answer this one. Tina Willis said, "Is it an unsubstantiated myth or true that reciprocal links do not help?" I won't try and read it all. There's a whole lot there, but what do we have to say about this one? Everyone's waiting for Tim.
Why are you waiting for me on this? Look, I think Google devalued these a long time ago, but I wouldn't be adverse to a reciprocal link in the sense when it makes sense. So if you are a manufacturer and you link out to your a distributor, and the distributor links back to you saying these are the manufacturer of our pink fluffy elephant necklaces. So in those cases, it would make sense and it's perfectly cool. Although I do think Google has devalued these completely. If it's, for example, a reciprocal link where someone says, hey, put, if you're a directory and you're adding a directory and then putting a link back, I mean, that firstly is just, it makes no sense and is pretty much valueless. But if it makes sense, I think it's perfectly acceptable for, in certain instances.
I'm going to tell you, I always thought that this is a very much an unsubstantiated myth. And I think it all boils down to what the definition of reciprocal link is. If I am a manufacturer and I link to the distributor of my product and the distributor links back to me, the idea that those two links would be discounted or in any way spammy or anything else is just, unreal. So I think what this was about was the whole idea of reciprocal links, which goes back a long, long time, was about websites having what they used to call a links page, where they link to a site. And very often those links were reciprocal links because another site had their links page and they link back. But there's just the idea that if Microsoft links to Google and Google links to Microsoft, that those links are discounted in some way is, it's just bizarre. So this, as I say, I think my view has always been it all depends on what people term as reciprocal links. And unfortunately, the lowest common denominator was my site links to your site and your site links to my site. And the idea that those are discounted or ignored is just bizarre.
Yeah, I kind of put it in simple language, which is that if it makes sense, if there's a good reason for them being in place, such as you are a supplier or a distributor and someone else is a manufacturer, as we've been talking about, yes, great. But if it's one of these, if it's something that looks and is going to be implemented as a kind of spammy campaign of pestering the life out of loads and loads of sites, saying, if you link to me, I'll link back to you. And if you've got loads of them, then I think anyone, whether they're Google or not, indeed, if Google is a person, which probably not, anyway, would be suspicious of those. So I think I think it's spam. If it looks like spam, it tastes like spam, and you shouldn't be eating it. So don't worry if it's sensible, if it's something you want to do because that's a connection that you have in the real world, or your client has in the real world. Don't worry about it. But if you're trying to look for a linking campaign to do, don't do reciprocal linking.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, this one, a website is on page 1 of Safari, but page 4 on Internet Explorer. David Abed said, why does SEO vary depending on the browser? I wonder if he means that, I mean, the default on IE would be Internet Explorer or Edge. I wonder if he means that he's going to different search engines.
You know what? This
Surely
also,
not.
it's probably not like he says. Why does SEO vary depending on the browser? I think what he should be writing is, can the results vary depending on the browser? And the answer is probably yes, but it's more so about what else you've been searching for. So he's probably getting personalized results in one and not in the other. So he really needs to just clear his cache and maybe go to an incognito window and have a look. I don't know what else. It also could be, if it's not in the same machine, could it be different IP addresses? Could it be in different locations? But it's not really. You don't really need to perform different SEO for different browsers per se. It's more that every user may have a different result set.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else? Okay, we're up to number 10. We've got 24 to go. And I realise you have to leave early, Richard, so I'm rushing through these. Interlinking, it's titled Interlinking to Spread Link Equity to My Best Pages for George Gomez Sitten. George said, good evening, SEO friends. I have a dumb SEO question. How difficult is it to apply interlinking to spread link equity to my best pages?
It's not difficult. You just link. But it needs to make sense where you if you're interlinking. So I'll give you an example. You might have a varnished wood trestle table that's 6 by 2'6". Okay. And you also have a wooden trestle table section. And it may in that product to say you may be interested in the plain wood 6 by 2'6" trestle table. Perfect sense. You're interlinking, and it makes sense, right? But you're not then on that page going to say, oh, take a look at the banqueting chair. Are you? Because, well, I suppose you could, but you could then, this, seats 3 chairs going down the one side. So actually, I suppose you could. Let's see. But you wouldn't then link to the coffee urn. Do you see what I mean? It makes, where it makes sense, go ahead and interlink. But also, I would say, think about interlinking in terms of upselling. So upselling is, it's been around forever. And you probably get upsold all the time when you go into a restaurant. They don't offer you tap water. They will offer you mineral water. It's up to you then to say, no, actually, tap water is fine for me, thanks, right? They will offer you mineral water because you're upselling. Upselling the fact that if I ask for, if someone says mineral water, you're going to be like, yeah, great, I'll have one. And that, boom, ching, ching, that's an extra £2 on the bill, right? This is upselling, and it's the basis of all selling. you want to add to that. Why do you think they put all the tiny little things when you check out in the supermarket? Because I've gone to get my big shop. As I'm waiting there, there's the little extra little plots. Oh, great. Thank you very much. You know, boom, that's an extra 20p bill, 30p onto the bill. Thank you. The point is, if it makes sense, link to it up, you know, offer the choice to the customer is, oh, well, you're not thinking about the, you know, the varnished wooden table. Here's the same size table in plain wood or metal or whatever the case may be. It makes sense then to interlink through.
I think if your site is pretty tight, though, let's say you're selling a product or a group of products and you've got quite a large site and you write about your industry or whatever, it's quite normal to have some sort of block about, like, learn more about product X or learn more about product Y, whether it's in some sort of promotional element on the page. It's quite normal to do. So he should have no problem distributing link equity. And actually, it's something that a lot of sites don't do very well, because very often they get lots of great links into some stuff like blog content and evergreen content, but don't necessarily link that back to their products in a way that they're deriving the most benefit from those links.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, Maher. All right, let's move on to the next. Number 11 on our run list is, it's titled SEO for Google Play and iTunes app pages. Nicholas Bodell said, another dumb question. SEO for Google Play and iTunes app pages, any actually proven practices? Are they helpful for your app showing in searches for that app within Play and iTunes? Gee, I saw a harness that somebody had set up in China, and it had about 500 or 600 mobile phones all stacked up, and they had staff there. All they were doing was downloading apps to jump up their numbers. Yeah, it just amazes me why iTunes and the Google Play Store don't take any action against them, because, you know, I mean, we put together a great app for tourism travel in Australia, a really fantastic app. I think it had about 20 downloads tops. Yeah, it worked out about I don't know, about $300 per download. Anyway, any comments? I see Jerry White gave an answer. He referenced David Iwano and Nick Duddy, who are both experts in that area. And I tagged David Iwano and hope he'll have a look at that. All right, let's tweet that and we'll move on. Kyle Doran asked a question titled, dynamically add product schema to an e-commerce site's products. Look, I won't, it's a very long question. You guys can read it on your run list there. Who has a response for it?
That's a dev problem. He just needs to get the developer to figure out what the ID of the image is and then grab whatever it is, the alt or whatever it is he wants from that image. Like, if he can do it for everything else from the page, like he says he is, and he can't do it for the image, it just means that the image isn't tagged in the right way, or he can't select the image easily, or there's too many images. That's just a dev problem. Give it to a dev and see if a dev will figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all we need for this one for Kyle. Our next is from James Fuller on how can I reach my target audience more effectively. He said, okay, so I have a small business that operates almost solely in one area. I noticed in my keywords in Search Console that I'm ranking high for an area 2 hours away, which is not ideal. It doesn't help my business and might actually dilute the focus from the area I'm targeting. I won't try and read the rest. You guys have a response for him? We didn't do it last week, Tim, because we couldn't run last week.
Or the week before. Unless all these questions are merging into one and I'm just complete. Anyway, so you're looking at the Search Console. Are you actually segmenting the country? Because a lot of times, you know, there could be the same name of an area in India where there's literally no one actually offering that service in that area in a different country, and therefore you're naturally appearing within that country for that keyword, and you think that's actually me, but actually it's a different country. So double check your country in the Search Console so you can actually filter the queries, in the Search Console. So double check that. The second thing is, what else was I going to say? No, anyone else carry on? Check your NAP citations. Something could have been bought there. I'm saying, like, for example, Yelp or whatever may have actually just incorrectly listed your main location, which is skewing it. So, for example, if you're using a service area radius on your Google My Business listing, that can be throwing you up more in a specific area, even though based on your location, even though you're slightly off and trying to service another one. So double check that. Unfortunately, something like that you can't actually sway Google, because Google, although you're hiding a service area, it's a service area business, they actually know where you are. And you saying, well, I actually service that area, but they know where your business is theoretically located anyway. Although it's hidden, they know where you are. And therefore, they will put you into the nearest relevant centroid for a search term. So it could be that swaying it. So double check that. That's about that.
Thank you, Tim. Sorry, mate, I had to just turn the fan off. Tim Capper lost for words. I was going to call Reuters. That's big news. All right. If nobody else has a comment, we'll move on. That was question 13, and currently in Australia, it's Friday the 13th. Number 14, our run list is from Job and John. He said, does using the cross-domain rel canonical boost ranking?
I mean, if the sites A, B, and C are different from site X, then canonicalization wouldn't make sense, because canonicalization essentially is stating this is the location, this is a true location for this entity. And so if the same thing is spread across different places, then having rel canonical should consolidate that to the true location of that resource. But if you have different things and then you're pointing those to a different entity, then that doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Masataki. Anybody else with a comment on this? Okay. Okay.
It's a curious answer from Alan there. How would it boost rankings? Canonical tags don't transfer any ranking strength. I'm not so sure about that. There's an interesting. They just guide Google in the indexing decision. I think they also consolidate ranking signals via canonical.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
So I'm not sure that that first comment there is accurate. Copy inside while leaving the original. I'm planning to reach out to the authors and purchase or rent their web page content and put the rel on there. Oh no, that's not good. I don't think when I see rent or purchase. I'm not sure what they're trying to achieve there. I think they're just trying to syndicate their content to third-party sites and then canonicalize those pages back to their own site. If the third-party site's got some links, there might be some value that they could pass on, but there could be other ways to do it rather than using cross-site canonical. I think Google might be a little bit suspect of what he's trying to do.
Yep, it's a complex scenario, but I think we've shed some light on it. Job and John can let us know if we failed. All right, number 15 on our run list, Edvinus Posnakius has a very large website and it needs a lot of sitemaps. Edvinus said, hey, I have a, okay. He said, how many URLs should be in one sitemap? 50,000. What tools should I use and how to crawl different parts of the website to get those different sitemaps? I tried to use Screaming Frog, but the website has so many pages that the free version can't crawl all the URLs. Some other tips on generating sitemaps for large websites.
You can have up to 50,000 URLs in a sitemap. And if it goes larger than that, use sitemap index files. And
Yep.
he should just pay for Screaming Frog because it's not that expensive to generate them if that's what he wants to do. And he should also look to see if his CMS has any sort of extension or plugin that allows him to build the XML files on their own. Segmenting XML files is actually a very good way to allow you to debug your site and your SEO in general.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's tweet that and move on and hope Edvinus is happy with us. This one from Mike Cook. He said, I have a site that has facets in the sitemaps. He said, I have a question. I have a site that has facets in the sitemaps. In turn, this makes the sitemaps huge. They were put in for more crawling and more unique targeted pages. I don't believe that this may give a benefit to us. Each facet page would have urls.com/category parameter facet page, a facet hyphen page, which would be a unique page more targeted at that facet. I hope he knows what he's doing. I can't work it out. He said, I wanted to get others' opinions about it. As to me, I don't like it. And I think the main page should be the crawlable page. And the facets are shortened down versions of the main. And have the sitemap smaller and cleaner. Anyway, just thought I would ask advice and an opinion from people not involved.
Terrible. Don't put facets in your sitemap like this. If you have 10, I think it's like something like 10 facets, which the number of permutations with 10 facets is some outrageously large number. So what he's doing is not good. He's just going to end up with a lot of very thin, low quality and duplicate content.
Yeah, I don't think he's wanting to do it. I think it's being done, and he doesn't like it. He agrees with you, I think.
He can, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can handle it. You can either block via robots.txt, but the problem with that is that then your site is probably linking to a lot of pages which are blocked, and you're just sinking a lot of page rank, which is not really good. Or you can try and get it redeveloped so there aren't internal links to those facet pages, and then block, and then at least you're not losing the page rank. Facets are quite difficult, and if you get it wrong, you know, I've worked with sites that they could be medium-sized sites like 50,000 pages or something, and suddenly someone puts in a section with facets, and next thing their site is like 1.5 million pages. And it can be quite difficult to get rid of, and Google will just keep crawling. Like they have like an insatiable thirst when they come across this type of URL structure. They'll figure it out after a while and they'll back off, but by that time you'll probably have a lot of crap index that you'll have a hard time getting out. So there's some pretty good resources you'll find about how to deal with facets and SEO in general. It's a tricky one, and you need to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. All right, let's move on to the next. Number 17 on our run list, halfway through. Slavica Nicoli is looking for a recommended way to treat a multilingual website. Slavica said, hi, I've started working for a client that already has a website with 3 language variations using URL language parameters to structure a site. I won't struggle through the URLs. They can be seen on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. She said, I know that this is not a recommended way to treat a multilingual website from an SEO point of view. So what is your recommendation? We're talking about a WordPress-based website.
Subdomain or subfolder only for your language. Always, because then you can use geo-targeting, and you can also validate them in their separate accounts, and you can see all the debugging information for different language sites.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. And I see he also got an answer from Dave Elliott, who's pretty well tireless on our community on Facebook. Number 18, Google search results continue to flag my pages as not mobile friendly. It's affecting my ranking. When I plug my addresses into their mobile usability tool, it states that all is good. Are there any ideas? Thanks. Google's such a large organization. People make these tools. I think there's about 3, isn't it, that Google has that you can test relating to mobile. When Google began pushing to people towards mobile, and before they started talking about a mobile first index. There's about 3 different pages people can go to test, isn't it?
You know, I'm just loading his site and I'm just running an audit in Chrome. But certainly when his site loads on mobile, it's not mobile friendly. I mean, it's the desktop site that I'm getting with a really tiny font. So I don't know why he thinks that his site is mobile friendly. I mean, like, you know, you just can't. It's from what I can see, unless it's now I'm looking at his homepage, but his homepage certainly, you're having to pinch and zoom anyway. There's no way you're going to use his homepage on a mobile device without pinch and zoom.
Yeah. Any more comment? All right, let me tweet that and we'll soldier on. Brian Michael asks, how do you create a link for people to leave reviews on your Google My Business? He said if he doesn't want to show his address. He said, I'm trying to do review generation and the Google Maps API isn't finding my business.
Yeah, so if you're using the GMB's actual, where you plug it in and it gives you the CID number, you can literally just show your address for a couple of minutes, get your CID number, and then just switch it back. I mean, literally, that's just the quickest way around. The other way is you can go, you can go into your maps, find your, you're just going to have to find your CID numbers. I've got a manual way of doing it, but literally takes quite a while. There are quite a few little tools out there, and there's quite a few different ones which will do it for you. But I would always prefer using the CID. A lot of these tools, and when Google changes things, you'll see that, you'll see the forum go crazy. Oh, can't click the link because, Google's changed some of their parameters and et cetera, et cetera. I would always try and use that and try and do it manually. But it seems like from the things you've sorted that out. So.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let's go to the next. This one from Simone Pellegrini. Will changing the design affect my position on search engines? Hi there, I have a question for you. Simone said, I'm restyling my website, in brackets, Wix. I won't be changing my domain nor the web server. One of my pages is now very well positioned. Will changing the design affect my position on search engines? If yes, what are the best practices I can implement not to lose my actual position? I think the first thing that Simone should check is that is she searching for her site using an anonymous browser? Because she might be, given that it's a Wix site, it might be personalized browsing that's showing her with the result. Has anybody ever had any success with a Wix or a Weebly site?
I have to report back to you about that one in a while. A friend of mine's just put a Wix site up after I I said don't do it. But as I've promised to help him out, I shall find out how well or how easily it is to optimize a Wix site.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with one a couple of years back. They're nice. Drag, drop, blah, blah, blah. And back then, they didn't even have HTML blocks, so you could actually, get some form of structured data into it via HTML. Yeah, they're all right. I think if you're restyling it, look, when you say restyling, Google doesn't use the style of your page in that sense. Google, you understands what's on your page. So if you're changing it just to one image, and you're removing everything, textual that a human can actually literally read, saying, "Hi, welcome to my pink fluffy man cave." That came out so terribly wrong. So look, if you're removing your textual content for some really cool image, textual content for some great big image, and just having some marketing one-liner in there, yes, it may affect your positioning. Because, if you've removed anything that Google can possibly understand about you and what you offer, and just adding an image there, which is only literally can read, the title and the old text on it, yes, there is that possibility. You're going to lose that, because also you must remember the internal pages in there is going to carry your site also, but it's not just your home page. So the style of it itself is not going to necessarily affect that.
I think you might have to be a little bit more careful than that, to be honest. Like, I think if you think about, right, so I just went to another tab with the last question, and I put in this guy's site URL, and I ran the Lighthouse test, which is in Chrome. Well, like, Google built Lighthouse, so they can give you back all the results of that test. And that's all programmatic. Like, there's nobody looking at it. That's part of an algorithm. There's no reason they can't stick that into their own algorithm. And we know that they're rendering, like, virtually all pages that they crawl and that they index. So, like, I think that, 5 years ago, you could probably say, don't worry too much about design. But I think these days, I think it's probably becoming more of a factor in how Google is going to rank sites. Like, it's like your site is not mobile friendly. Like, if your links or your buttons in your mobile design aren't clickable, or they're on top of each other, that could have an impact. I don't know. I think you've got to be, I think in general, most redesigns, no problem. You really don't have to worry too much. But I think over time, design is going to become more of a factor. How you lay stuff out. Let's say you move all your content below the imaginary fold that doesn't exist. Well, it does exist in Google Land, so I think there are many ways that design could impact ranking. That's just my view. I mean, I'm not basing that on anything substantive, but my guess is that you have to be a lot more careful these days than you did in the past. Was I that boring?
No,
well,
not
Jim,
that really. I'm old, mate.
No
old.
coffee today, Jim.
Actually, I did get a couple of coffees in, but I've had a pretty hard week. I'm not really coping. Anyway,
I think I agree with Richard on this, because I think that design can have a fundamental effect on UX, and if UX is an issue, as we seem to believe it is, as a community of SEOs, I think that it might have to be an extreme design with lots and lots of hidden content and stuff and things that pull down and tabs and whatever. But if it's a bad user experience, then why should you have a site that's ranking as well as when it was having a good user experience? I think there's I think you need to think hard about what your design is doing. Why is it the way it is? Are you just redesigning because you're bored, or you think that there's something in it that that's out of fashion or something? If there's something on it that is bad practice, change it. So yeah, I think that I think that certain design decisions can have an effect on your search engine performance, or could have.
Thank you, David. And let's can call that an answer for Simone, and move on for this one from Jason Hyungchul Kang. What is the best non-complicated process to switch a CMS without affecting any current rankings? Jason said, hello, an acquaintance of mine has an old website that does not run a CMS. It's hand-coded HTML4. I wanted to get him on WordPress with a completely new design. What is the best non-complicated process to do this without affecting any current rankings? We've had quite a few questions like this in the last week or two. And one thing that disturbs me, I'd like to know what you guys think. Are people doing their friends a favour by saying that just because their site is HTML4, they want to replace that site with a WordPress site because it has a CMS? Are they doing their friend a favour? Anyway,
I think what I've seen a lot is a basic panic, or a lot. I've seen several instances of a basic panic of our old site is not responsive, and there's all this mobile stuff coming in. And this could be that situation. It could have been done before anyone had a smartphone in their pocket, almost. So whoever answered the question comes along and says, well, what you need is something more modern altogether. We can easily put a responsive theme onto WordPress, and then people on their smartphones can read it. So I suspect this is one of those, rather than it's an old chuggy bit of code and you really ought to do something more modern.
Could well be, and it could also be this idea of inbound, and everyone sort of, we have to run inbound and we have to print and publish content, and maybe not easy for this guy to publish content on this old site. There's multiple reasons, I suppose, but it's a migration. A migration is a migration.
Yeah. All right. Let's. Did I tweet that or not? Apparently not. Okay. Let's go to the next. Number 22 on our run list. Brian Michael asked a question. The hours section on Google My Business. I have a local client that operates by appointment only. Should I place anything for the hours section of their Google My Business, or should I leave it empty?
Guidelines says if your appointments only, you should leave it empty, because then you won't have hours appearing, and then people will most naturally phone you anyway to say, hey, are you open? You could also try incorporating the new, kind of appointment feature, but that requires you using a third-party booking system. Currently, there is one that is free, but you would need to maintain the booking system or install that at least into your site. If you don't want, so you got the two choices there.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody else? All right, let's go to number 23 on our run list from Anato Dare Abumair. He said, only 2 of my 64 blog posts are indexed by Google. What should I do? I think I saw on the Facebook group somebody posted that he had them indexed. Let me just see. Okay, so he posted the domain, and no, unless we've missed scraping the comment. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Richard Hearn has left us. Is it just me, or and NATO? That's a really low number, isn't it? 2 out of 64, if it's actually right. Let me have a look at site.
Well, there are 115 results when I do it.
Yeah. Most of them with the same. Most of them with the same description, and Google hasn't bothered to pick another one.
No.
That should be a lesson to him, and it's Bitcoin, which is something that Google doesn't accept ads for, or is that Facebook that they don't accept the ads anymore?
I don't know.
I believe it's both.
Sorry?
I believe it's both. I think both Facebook and Google, have said that they will stop accepting ads for cryptocurrencies.
Right. So really, NATO should be looking for a different and a new specialization, because if they refuse to accept advertising, that means that the content is fairly toxic for a search engine. It's pretty a hard road to hoe, yeah?
Yeah, I think the tendency is towards regulation of cryptocurrencies. So it certainly is a very risky area to monetize.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next if there are no further comments. This one, number 24 on our run list, Philippe Bazon. To optimize or not to optimize, this one goes to all of the SEOs out there. What do you do when you have a page that ranks first for its main keywords but has no optimization at all? And by that I mean no title tag, no meta description, canonical tag is all wrong, no heading tags, and above all, no keyword-rich content. I mean, the keyword is not found even once within the copy, and no external links pointing to it. Even though it is not a very competitive niche, there are competitors optimizing for the terms. Would you optimize this site, and how do you explain the top rankings for this page? The only thing I can think of is that the authority of the domain has helped it rank. By authority, I mean the number of reasonably good backlinks it receives from other trustworthy domains. P.S. The terms are Cornish pasties by post, and the other term is pasties by post. I actually looked this up. because and from Australia, Cornish pasties by post.
Pasties,
Go ahead,
please.
David.
Pasties, please, not pasties.
Pasties?
My central controller is Cornwall. She knows.
I thought a pasty was something that a stripper used. Pardon me, Maher.
I wouldn't know, but a pasty is something you stick in your gob.
Well, that's what she said.
Yes, well, I did feed you that one, so I'm glad that you responded.
All right. Yeah, I have to thank people like Travis Bailey, who obviously is putting a lot of effort into. No, Maher, you should not be offended. I hope not anyway. I would never do anything to intentionally offend you, and if I have, I apologize. Okay.
It's if it ain't broke, fix it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, that's the thing. There'll always be edge cases. Sorry, Masataki, go ahead.
if it is a site that is first on the results page, and I'm based in the UK, so it's probably right. It is interesting because, yeah, I think it's a question of people not. I think that they must have made some sort of mistake in filling the fields out, and that's why the titles aren't there, and so on and so forth. So I would fix that. I wouldn't necessarily call it optimization, but I think it's worth fixing that. I can't see how that's going to do any harm.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have attempted to actually put the descriptions in. It's just they've put them in a way which Google, I mean, they've added inverted commas, weird. Yeah, look, they have tried to actually add these in. It's just that Google's not going to display it because they've added them in completely incorrectly. But Googlebot's probably reading them anyway. It's not that your title. I would still tidy it up. You know, if somebody's searching for Cornish pasties on post, Google said, right, shop online at Phil's Pasties, right? But it would still make sense to say Phil's Pasties. In fact, let me do a side query. I bet you Google does actually change it around anyway. But anyway, it still makes sense to say, you know, Phil's Pasty, Cornish pasties online, you know, or true tasty Cornish pasties online or whatever. It makes sense. Changing your title is not necessarily going to muck that up. And, you know, looking at the links, I mean, these guys have got a fabulous reputation. They've got a lot of travel companies specifically, you know, talking about them. It's the same kind of issue same kind of thing where you see it all the time. You know, you'll go onto you'll see ads on telly or whatever the case may be, spending, you know, £1 million a month on ads. You go to the site, it's not optimized whatsoever, but they positioned massively because, you know, by name and reputation. Google uses a lot of things other than on page and just links, you know, reputation, you know, other online mentions. So they by all accounts are very, very well written about. They're even written about in the Pasty Adventure in the pastyadventures.co.uk. So yeah, and even you've got one of the top UK hire cars writing about them, you know, and what to do in Cornwall. So look, I would tidy it up. As Master said, they have attempted to. They just, whoever did, added in some really weird, craziness in there. Even your rel canonical, they've attempted to put it back to the main .co.uk, but because whoever tried to do it put it in incorrectly, it's not. Google's not honouring that either.
I'd help, but I don't know the answer.
So yeah, it will not help. I doubt it'll harm if you actually correct the proper title. In fact, it's all in there. It just needs to be implemented correctly. As for the homepage, nothing is going to be. I really honestly don't feel that there's going to be anything different, even if you just added in "Welcome to Phil's famous pasties from Cornwall," an actual welcome sign there, slightly expanding the two and actually giving information on what they can find on the pasty page and what you can find on the hampers page. It makes sense to do it. I doubt that's going to that will harm anything. As I said, it's not always just what's on page. There's a lot of other things out there. I might even give them a try, really. By all accounts, they've got really good pasties. Hey, they've even been written out. They've even been written in the Guardian. So, those frickin' snowflakes, if they like a pasty, then it must be.
In the UK, do you say nasty or nasty?
Depends where you come from.
Really?
It's like, do you say bath or bath?
Pasty, pasty, that sounds like something that gets stuck on the bottom of your shoe.
It's a pasty, man.
It's definitely a pasty.
All right. Okay, so let's...
You can sit there and swing them around if you like, Jim, but, they're still pasties.
Okay. Divyosh Raj asked the question, is the meta keywords tag still useful?
No.
No, or absolutely not?
I think, as Dave Elliott says, not even vaguely.
Yeah, I thought they stopped using it almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
If you want to use it, rule of thumb, I would say maybe once, maybe add your main keyword into it that's relevant to that particular page. You could probably go up to maybe 3 because I don't know where the page is, but I'm sure at some point Google said, I think in some of the information it says that they don't use it, but that they can use it as a spam indicator.
I think your memory is correct. That's what I remember too.
Yeah. So, if you want to use it, add the main keyword for that particular page and maybe a synonym to that. But so 1 or 2, but anything more, mate, just, it's at your own. I doubt it's going to do anything, but I would just 1 or 2 if it makes you feel calmer.
All right.
Was that calmer or calmer?
Calm, as it makes you feel calmer. If he's got some kind of like OCD thing where he just sees the little keyword box in his CMS going, I need to put that in. You know what I mean? Calm.
I thought it might be calmer if you use it, then Google comes and stamps on you.
No, calmer.
Sorry, I just needed clarification there.
Okay. Here's a good question from Andrew Blacksmith. He says, how does Google detect if a website satisfies user needs? David Kuchar said, lack of pogo stick behavior. What does he mean by pogo stick behavior?
Jumping onto the site and jumping straight off again. But I don't know how Google does this, because Google doesn't tell us, does it?
They don't even tell us what data they use to measure.
No. So I guess the if I want to come back to the question and pick it apart, you know, what are user needs? Have we even defined what they are?
Yep.
I think the answer is no, but if you read up enough, you will get so much conjecture that you'll be very, very confused.
Well, one simple answer I can add to your comments is that Google does have a quality review team. And I haven't read that guidelines for the quality review team in a few years, but surely a lot of the questions are angled towards usability. I'm sure some of the questions actually would ask, do you think this site looks authentic, etc., etc. Anyway, that's a little bit. Andrew, I'm sorry we couldn't give you a better answer. We did our best. Problem is David Rosam is older than me. That's the problem.
It's just that your brain is going into meltdown as you get so old. You think everyone's older than you. You've just reverted to childhood.
Mate, I've been working so hard the last 5 days. I've been working like an 18-year-old.
Just as long as you weren't working on an 18-year-old.
No, mate. Okay, Victoria Walsh has a profile photo there, a pair of little pussies. The question is titled "Spammy looking URL that's not part of my site." I think this is refer as spam in analytics. But she said, in my Google Analytics, I have a spammy looking URL that's not part of my site coming up in the list of pages visited. What do I do about this? And she gives the URL, which can be read on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. I think it's refer as spam. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So the idea is that you get curious and you click on that link. And if these people send out millions of these links, so that they appear on people's analytics, even 0.1% might be a good return. So just ignore.
Yep. Okay, we can call that an answer. I'll tweet it and we'll move on. We're powering through these. We're up to number 28 out of 34. Maria Patterson has a question regarding HTTPS running alongside HTTP pages. She said, I took on a website's SEO today that appears to have had HTTPS running alongside HTTP's pages since 2006. The canonicals were pointing to the HTTP pages, though. I can see this using the Wayback Machine and viewing the source. However, a well-meaning designer recently saw in about January this year that the site had HTTP and HTTPS alongside each other and redirected the HTTP to the HTTPS and changed the canonicals and the sitemaps to HTTPS. However, he did not sort any of the internal links or add HTTPS to Google Analytics or Google Search Console. And he will not do it. As he said, he did the first bit as a favour to the owner to avoid duplicate content. Maria Patterson's question is, would there have been duplicate content if the canonicals were HTTP? I think the answer is no, but what do you guys think? Jenny Hanless says yes.
I'm slightly confused by the situation. So the developer has decided to redirect the HTTP to HTTPS, but on the HTTPS pages, the canonical link is to the HTTP. So you have a conflict there, right? Because if someone types in the address, 301 kicks in, goes to the HTTPS page. But if you look at the source, the canonical link is HTTP. So that's sending a mixed signal.
Yeah, I think from my reading of what she said, that the designer, he redirected the HTTP to HTTPS, and he also changed the canonicals and the sitemaps to be HTTPS.
Okay. Sorry.
But the concern is the navigation is still HTTP. I think she's probably having an argument with this developer, and because the developer has said that the reason he did it was because of duplicate content, she wants to know if that circumstance would produce duplicate content. I think it wouldn't. What do you guys think?
Currently, no, because the HTTP pages are being redirected to HTTPS, right? So all HTTP pages are redirected to HTTPS. So though only the HTTPS page is accessible, would that be correct?
Yes, but even so, it's only a matter of the protocol. The protocol is either port 443 or port 80, and I don't think Googlebot would read that as like an SSL page and a non-SSL page. I don't think Googlebot would look at that and say that's duplicate. It would say that's the same page from two different protocols, but it's not duplicate.
No, but the problem I have is that that situation doesn't arise in that if all the pages are being redirected to HTTPS, if Googlebot hits port 80, it's going to be redirected to the 443, right?
Yep.
So, Googlebot is not going to be able to crawl the HTTP page because the bot is being redirected to the HTTPS page.
Yep.
So I don't think there exists any issue with duplicate content because all the content is pointing now towards the HTTPS page.
Yeah, I totally agree. The answer to Maria's question, which is listed there, would there have been duplicate content if the canonicals were HTTP? The answer to that question is clearly no.
No, I think that's where there's a slight issue because there's going to be a conflict, right? Because if a Googlebot comes through port 80, redirected to port 443, crawls that page, sees that page, looks at the source, and it says canonical link is HTTP. Now then, it's now in a quandary, because on the one hand, if it goes again and tries to go to the HTTP page, it's going to be redirected to HTTPS. But if it looks at the canonical, it says it's HTTP. So in this instance, I think Google will, in a sense, ignore the canonical, because HTTPS is where the bot ends up and the users end up. So while it's not a duplicate content issue, it is creating a conflict of sorts. And if it's feasible to fix that, then I would fix that, because it would reduce this one particular aspect of conflict.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, I agree with Masataki. It should be fixed. Although canonicals are only a hint, not a direct action required by Googlebot, it is a hint. But yeah, it's totally unnecessary. All right, let's move on to the next. Paddy Mantaloons wants to know, are unnatural links to your site, manual actions, now a thing of the past? I don't think so. Guys, have you heard anything to the contrary?
I haven't seen reports of manual actions being handed out in quite a while. I think Google's, yeah. I can't say for certain. But I haven't seen manual actions handed out in a long time. Or at least I haven't seen reports of these. But Casey, on the other hand, says it's still common. So, there's, yeah, I can't say for certain.
Yeah. And you would be the expert on all things unnatural, Tim. All right, Paddy, I hope that's an answer for you, and it's good to see you again. Tina Willis asked another question. I think she asked a question before. Getting Google to crawl a page you do not own or control. Tina said, does anyone have any suggestions for getting Google to crawl a page you do not own or control? So I cannot submit it to the Google Search Console.
Yeah, I mean, there is an actual page, a Google page submit direct in search results that you can add it as a suggestion for Google to crawl, get it on your, like Dave said, pop it on your Google Plus. That's as good as telling Google to crawl it. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, just a quick thing here. Tina, I remember, also came up with a reciprocal link question. So I'm going to put the 2 and 2 together and say to you, Tina, if you built a link on a page that literally Google's not finding or hasn't found in a while, I'm just going to say to you, I don't even think that was worth putting that link there. If Googlebot just can't be asked to even crawl that site, then, that link is going to be worth nothing. So, just a thought for you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. This one from George G. How can we benefit from links to images? Has anyone tested a 301 image to page? Michael Martin has said images do not confer PageRank-like value because they do not contain hypertext links. The algorithms are designed for document-type files that contain links.
And what does he want to achieve? So he wants to redirect from an image file to an HTML page, for example. Is that what he's trying to do?
He explains more in the comments of the
No, but so someone links to an image file, right? To your image file.
yeah.
What is he proposing to do? So that there's a link to an image file. He wants to redirect from that image file to another entity. I don't understand what he's trying to do.
I'm trying to get a handle on it now. Dale Taverner said in the comments, I came across an e-com store doing a lot of this recently. It was like a huge image link farm, but they also include a hyperlink with the anchor text as a
Dot.
A dot under the image. Very strange. I have not seen it anywhere else.
I mean, that's like having a 1 pixel by 1 pixel link, isn't it? So the question is, you have an image and underneath it you have an anchor. Where does that lead to? Does it lead to a page rather than to an image? Right? You could have an image and underneath it a link to that image file, or it could be to a link to a page with that image file on. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so that might be one scenario. But if there is a link, so I assume that's hypertext link, it's not hot linked image, but a link to an image file somewhere. Right? So perhaps someone says, if you want to see a bigger picture of this, click here, and then links to an image file. So if you click on that, the image appears. Now, what does George want to do here? Because if someone has a link to an image file, and you click on that, you expect to see the image file. What is he trying to redirect that to? So what happens when a visitor comes, perhaps on another site, there's a link to an image file, clicks on that link, then what happens? Where does the visitor end up? Does the visitor see the image? Or does the visitor go to a web page, for example?
Well, they could have a web page which displayed the image. That could be done, but I don't see any benefits here.
No.
And to that e-commerce store that's making a URL out of a dot, I think that's an easy way to fast track a penalty. Anyway, that's the best we can do for today, George G. And I hope you are well. All right, let's go to the next one. James Fuller. He said, breadcrumbs, how important are they? If your website isn't very deep, can you do well without them? I tried plugging them into my website, but at first glance, the results were ugly. I would need to spend quite a bit of time cleaning up the visual layout. I'm assuming they should be visible. Of course, the whole point of a breadcrumb is to make navigation easy for the user.
I think they're absolutely essential for fish fingers.
Fish fingers.
Do you not have fish fingers in the outback?
We don't even have pasties.
Now you're really losing out on British culture here. You don't have pasties and you don't have fish fingers.
That's not culture.
I tell you, it is.
There's a heart attack in every bite.
They are important, are they not? Because they help with UX, and they may keep someone on a site longer because they will not get confused as to where they are and where they've been. I remember in the past people saying that they actually helped Google understand the site too, but I'm not sure I see that from that angle. I'm not sure that's right. I think that we have XML sitemaps for that already. So why should we do these through? Why should we do that for spidering? Yeah, it's good if you can get it designed into your site and your site is big enough to cause people confusion as they go around it, I think.
Well, I think that Googlebot obviously likes breadcrumbs because they put them into search results. So they obviously think they're worthwhile.
Yeah, so there are two aspects to this, isn't it? One aspect is the UX side, people visiting on the site and knowing where they are and what are the different layers available. And the other bit, I suppose, is whether you put in this schema.org markup, for example, the breadcrumbs markup, to make it easier for machines to understand what kind of architecture you have. And that might help Google to understand the site better in terms of hierarchy. And also that may help the site in terms of having that breadcrumbs appear in search results. But I'm not 100% sure how that works out.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next. I better tweet that first. Here we go from Safaraz Mania. Are backlinks really important in today's SEO? Yes.
Good backlinks are useful, but then again, we have the question about whether bad backlinks exist anymore. Yes, get some good natural backlinks and life will be peachy.
Ahead, you have to go. Okay. Thank you very much for coming tonight. All right, we'll call that an answer for Sarfaraz and move on to the next. I think this is our last question for the night. Another one from Divyosh Raj. He said, after adding a meta tag description, he said, my rankings have fallen. He said, without a meta tag, the rankings were higher. But after adding a meta tag description, my rankings have fallen. Has anyone ever come across such a situation?
I really doubt it was a description. Unless you physically changed it, you tagged that in your analytics, you literally didn't touch anything over a 30-day period, and you know, all of a sudden, the meta tag is literally there to help users understand what's in the site or on that page within the search results. Yeah, I think you've got that wrong.
Something else has happened, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Coincidence.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Tucky.
Yeah, just saying coincidence happened. So
yeah. So it's oh, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It is
pink, fluffy, and elephant.
No. The word I'm trying to think of, like it is like we're all four of us are in agreement. So what's it's unanimous.
Unanimous.
That's the word I was trying to think of.
Now, unanimity.
Oh my God! I hope my brain doesn't start letting me down more quickly than that. I mean, it's no good having a beautiful body and a funky brain. All right, Divyash, it is unanimous. We're all in agreement that adding your meta tag description did not affect your rankings. And I think you got the same answers from people like Alan Blue Ice on our Dumb SEO Questions community on Facebook through the week. All right, I think it's that time again. We'll see a sign. Yes, it's thank you for watching. We appreciate your interest in what we do. Not only that, your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now, it's good night and thank you.